Stop managing tasks, start managing outcomes.
Most business owners will really think about busy work being productive. It's not, and they always go back to, well, how did you get involved in this, or how did you get in that, and how did you do this?
While everybody else is talking about why they can't, I just do.
You need to be productive. You need to keep grinding. You need to make real progress. Literally, it's just like Nike, just do it.
Welcome back to the Legacy Advisors Podcast, the show where we help entrepreneurs and business owners scale, acquire, and exit the right way. I'm Kris Jones, and as always, this is my co-host, Ed Button Jr. And today we're going to dive into an extremely important topic. It's the one that separates the good from the great: mindset. The truth is, success in business isn't just about strategy or execution. It's about how you think, how you handle setbacks, and how you push forward when things get tough. We'll kick things off with Mindset Minute, where Ed and I share the game-changing mental shifts that have helped us navigate entrepreneurship. Then, in Resilience Rundown, we'll take you behind the scenes of some of the hardest moments in our careers, times when things nearly fell apart, and how we fought through them. We'll also break down daily habits that keep top entrepreneurs sharp in a segment called Life Hacks for Leaders. So, if you're ready to sharpen your mindset, embrace resilience, and level up as a leader, you're in the right place. So let's go ahead and get into it, Ed. First, welcome to Mindset Minute.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, we're going to break down the mental game of entrepreneurship into bite-sized, high-impact lessons. As you know, you could have the best strategies in the world, but if your mindset isn't dialed in, if you're not quite there, you won't execute at your full potential.
Yeah, because without tactics, without a plan, you don't really have anything.
The thing is, for me, the single most important trait for success is confidence. And, I get it. Confidence is a big word, so I'm going to try to dial it in a little bit. But if you don't believe in yourself, just from a starting point, no matter what you're going to do in life, we're talking about entrepreneurship, mergers and acquisitions, but if you don't believe in your outcome, why should anyone else, right? So confidence, in my opinion, is the foundation of resilience, peak performance, and achieving big goals. So I'm going to dive into a little bit more with this idea of the power of confidence. See, confidence is so important, I think, in this game that it surpasses intelligence, how much money you have in the bank, or even experience. Yep. You know, the old saying, fake it till you make it. The truth is, you believe in your destiny before you achieve it. Yep. So, you have to believe in yourself before results show up. You can't wait for external validation. I think if there's one lesson that I could share, is that while everybody else is talking about why they can't, I just do. And I'm a big learner and believer in that, and I know you're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So I said I was going to dial back this idea of confidence. One of the things, I've been to 14 live Tony Robbins events. Live events aren't like an hour lecture. These things are 3, 4, 5 day immersion intensive things, right? And so one of the things I learned in really the first one, he makes you feel uncomfortable. It's that physiology is a critical part of your level of confidence. And how you breathe, how you move, this influences how you think. So confidence is as much physical as it is mental, right? And that insight that I got pretty early, I said I went to 14 live Tony shows. I listened to his Personal Power 1 back when I was 14 years old. My best friend at the time, Brian Drew, his dad, dentist, Dr. Drew, gave me the tape. So this episode is really close to my heart, and I hope people enjoy some of my distinctions here. So just an actionable tip, if you stand tall, you breathe deep and speak with certainty, your energy and your confidence and your brain and everything follows. So, change your posture, change your mood. So when facing a tough challenge, adjust your body first, stay strong, breathe deeply, and move with energy. Another thing I wanted to chat about real quick is this idea that a professor from the University of Chicago wrote a book called Flow. I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to give it a try. I believe his name is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
You did better than I did.
I know, and he wrote this book on the state of flow, and for those of you that read it or that are listening, I'm connecting with you right now because you know how profound this is. So here's the key distinction. When you're confident, you take decisive action instead of overthinking it or avoiding it. Again, when you're confident, when you can build your confidence, build your physiology, you take decisive action. So think about top athletes. And when they step onto the field, they aren't questioning themselves, right? They're locked in. That's the state entrepreneurs need to cultivate. I mean, if you think about it, I think, an entrepreneur at his or her best and an athlete at his or her best are very, very comparable. Mm-hmm. When they enter that state of flow, they're in the best position to make decisions. In fact, tough decisions become a lot easier. And so, just keep that in mind. Flow is critical, and it should be a desirable place for us to spend time. The other thing with regard to confidence is the law of attraction, and this idea of, what you focus on, your energy flows, mm-hmm. but it also attracts back what you visualize. And so having a clear, exciting vision for your future is critical to the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things Tony Robbins spends time on in a program he calls Date with Destiny, which I've gone to twice. It's a 5-day immersion. And what you really work on that whole week is, what is your compelling future, personally, professionally? And so, the real takeaway here is that if you could get really, really excited about what it is, where you're headed, not only will you be more confident, but things happen more in a state of flow, much more naturally. So I know that you have, learned a lot of lessons about mindset, and I appreciate our listeners and you obliging me on a little bit of Tony Robbins. There's a little bit more coming later, but why don't you share with us your mindset principle?
Yeah, so primarily my mindset really is falling forward and failing forward. A lot of it go together. A lot of what we do in business is trial and error. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to make mistakes. Remember those mistakes. Be key about them. Be keen to make sure you don't do them again. And having contingency plans in place that if something does go wrong, if something goes sideways, military guys out there understand what it means by going sideways. You have an opportunity, you have a way to fix it. And when you have those ways to fix it, you have to get beaten more and more and more times to actually fail. If you don't have any ways to fix something and it starts going sideways, you're done. If you don't have an opportunity to fix it, you're done. So if you have all these different contingency plans built in, it builds your plan, it makes it more durable. Making plans durable and having that mindset of, I can fix anything, which again is built on the confidence mindset. If you have a confident mindset that you can build anything, obviously, you're gonna be able to build anything because you're telling yourself you can do it. You have a vision of what you want to achieve. Most entrepreneurs, they fear the future. They don't know what's gonna come. They don't know how it's gonna be done. But most entrepreneurs just do it. Like you said, you just get out and do it. That's what I do. I talk to people all the time, people in my own organization, people outside of my organization that will say, how the hell did you actually just do it? I have no clue. I just did it. I said, well, I'm not going to not do it. Might as well do it. So we did it. And they always go back to, well, how did you get involved in this? Or how did you get in that? And how did you do this? And literally, it's just like Nike. Just do it. And one of the ones I go back to is when I was starting propane. We were a legacy Field distributor, small company, and we wanted to diversify. Young ownership group, no capital, not a lot of opportunity from a financial standpoint, so we wanted to diversify into some other spaces. And in 2011, we started propane. And I was the propane department. I was the truck, the tank setter, compliance, legal, billing. I was everything. Sales. And when you're going through that type of trial by fire or baptism by fire, you learn a ton about the business. And if you don't forget what you learn and you don't repeat mistakes, you just continually become more durable, more durable, more durable. And getting out and growing the business, I used to joke around with people. I'd go out, I'd get told no 30, 40 times from customers. Keep remembering why they kept telling me no, why they kept, and finally I get a yes, okay? And I'd be all good. Yes, we're gonna get come on, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're gonna be a customer of ours. Oh, well, who do we call to schedule the tank set with? Oh, you got him, I'm gonna do it. Okay, well, who's the name of the guy coming to set our tanks? Oh, it's gonna be me too. Who makes our, what's our driver's name? You're talking to him. Yeah. And, but that's how entrepreneurs are. They can do everything in their whole space. You've been in marketing, you've been all this stuff. You know how to do everything in your whole space. And any day of the week, I would put a startup guy or girl against anybody in business, especially in their field, because they know more about it than anybody who might have been trained in this or trained in that. Startup people get it. They know the grind. They know when shit hits the fan, they can pull everything back and they can do it all themselves, so they have to. And really getting through the failing forward piece to kind of wrap it all up is when you're out there growing a business, you're gonna get told no a lot. And you might never get a yes, but you have to have an opportunity to step into and say, well, wait, this didn't work, we failed. So now we're gonna fall forward on top of something else that might work. Yep. And getting yourself some more opportunities in front of people and getting those accounts and getting that revenue going, and getting those, selling those widgets and printing that stuff or whatever it might be, just get it done. And getting it done is what takes, and never forget how you fail. As quick as you forget how you failed, guess what, you're gonna fail again. And businesses, in business mindset and the mentality you need is really good memories will save you a lot of money.
Yeah, what I was going to say there quick was that this idea of learning from no's, learning from failures or obstacles or whatever is really so central to success in entrepreneurship, particularly outsized success. Probably as a local business owner or a small business owner, I should say, not local, but you might be able to accommodate your customers, but you need to think big and you need to be resilient, which we're going to talk about in a second. But just to wrap up this particular segment, so confidence, it's not something you wait for. It's something you build. Yeah, and your physiology plays a huge role in that, and having awareness of your physiology and designing for yourself a compelling future, and you get to step into the mindset of a person that you ultimately, ideally, are aspiring to become.
Yeah, and confidence, as you get further into your career, it grows, it grows, it grows, it grows, it grows. And a lot of times you'll get people from the outside to say, this guy's arrogant, this guy is pompous, or this guy's a... No, this guy was an entrepreneur that got the shit beat out of him day in, day out, growing his business, and now he's not afraid to fail. Yeah. So guess what? No matter what you're gonna do to him or her, you're never gonna take that guy down. Yeah. He reeks with arrogancy, and that arrogant is good. Yeah. And people sometimes take it the wrong way of this guy's arrogant, this is that, or this girl, whatever it is, but he's earned that. And he doesn't mean to be that. He just has so much confidence, it just oozes out of him. And he's unstoppable. Once you get to that level and that mindset, a lot like where we got to, you're not knocking us off our mark. No matter how bad it gets, we're the one that people are gonna come to say, how do I get through this? How do I do that? What do I do? And that's where you get the confidence. And you know when you have your own confidence, and then you see other people come to you to help with their confidence, then you're like, wow, I got a shitload of confidence.
Yeah, confident people tend to attract confident people. But so mindset isn't just about motivation. It's a business strategy. And speaking of resilience, up next, we're going to share some personal stories of setbacks and comebacks in Resilience Rundown. So don't go anywhere. Every entrepreneur hits a wall. At some point, a moment where everything you've built is at risk. The real question is, how do you respond? Do you fold, or do you find a way forward? That's the next segment, Resilience Rundown. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's not just a buzzword. It is a pure survival skill. It is what businesses are built on. It is the stories that people remember, and it's what people think of when they think of a successful business. It's when something comes off the rails and there is a meltdown of sorts, and you're the durable person that has to figure it out.
Well, cue up your story, because I'm going to go ahead and share one of the toughest challenges I've ever had to deal with as an entrepreneur. Nobody should feel sorry for me because the story is extraordinary. It's a story that you read about in books, and I found myself in it. Back in 2017, I founded a company called Special Guest with comedian, actor Damon Wayans Jr. He's on television right now with his dad on Papa's House. I think it's Monday nights on CBS. Yeah, I mean, he's become one of my best friends, and I don't want to get to the punchline here, but Damon came to me. He grew up in the entertainment industry. A lot of his friends aren't famous like he is, and what he wanted to do was leverage my brain in the tech space to build a piece of technology, an app that would help independent, non-discovered artists get discovered and to get booked. And so, long story short, Damon and I partnered. We would later raise over $6.5 million. We ended up on a reality TV show for Apple TV, which was a crazy experience for me. Of course, he was in his zone. But nonetheless, it was a rocket ship until COVID hit in 2020. But instead of quitting, we made a game-changing mindset change, pivot. And here's how it all went down. So just setting the scene, I mentioned 2017, Damon approached me, we partnered. The business was a marketplace. So basically anybody could go to the app, discover and book live entertainment. So think mom booking a Spider-Man for her kid's birthday party, a soon-to-be bride looking for wedding entertainment.
Uber.
It's actually you said Celebrity Uber. You know what I used to say? America's Got Talent in your pocket. Yeah, pretty good. But anyway, it was a crazy vision. By March 2020, we were generating about $500,000 a month and doubling every 6 months. I mentioned we raised $6.5 million. It wasn't just $6.5 million from someone that nobody's ever heard of. Mm-hmm. It was from some of the top venture capital funds in Silicon Valley, Lightspeed Venture Partners, Precursor Ventures. Our lead investor from Lightspeed was the first investor in Snapchat, just to put this into perspective. Talk about high profile. How do you increase your profile more? Well, you leverage some of Damon's buddies to bring in big checks, six-figure checks. So his good buddy, Kevin Hart, his uncle Marlon, a couple of his co-stars from New Girl, Lamorne Morris, Jake Johnson. I'm just trying to set the stage that you couldn't have more pressure than I've had over the last 7-8 years working with these guys. But like I said, 2020 hit, and almost overnight, everything came crashing down. Think about it. COVID shut down restaurants. The idea of venues and live entertainment they were shut down with literally, barriers around them. You couldn't go into these. They could not hold those types of events. So social distancing meant that there were no bookings. I just told you we were doing $500,000 a month. And we were built on live performances. And we were dead in the water. You know, Damon and I never forget this conversation because I was really leveraging him to try to give me a sense of like comfort around like, when is this coming back? And I'll never forget, he's like, dude, he's like, it might not come back for 18 months, maybe even 2 years. It turned out that it was a little under 2 years where we did not make any money, any money. I had to lay off staff, the special guest staff, great, incredibly talented people. We had offices in different parts of the country, had to shut those down, and we had no idea when it was going to return. So most people here, like what's the lesson, right? Maybe, I don't know if this is totally true, but most entrepreneurs probably would have crawled into the corner and curled into a ball and said, well, you know, that's it, let's just shut it down. But I knew there had to be more. There had to be a way forward. And you know, this segment is on resilience. So listen, if the old model doesn't work, right? If there was a knob on the door and it was open, you just use the knob and you go in. But if it's locked, you got to find another way. You know, you need to figure out a way of pivoting and not, you know, letting your story end just because you're facing an obstacle that seems insurmountable. So instead of bookings, so I'm not gonna lie, we were fortunate. A little over 2 million of the raise came after COVID, which gave us the ability to not only pivot, but to throw a lot of darts. And I'm gonna be honest, we all remember that post-COVID. Nobody knew, it was so unstable, right? So a lot of the darts that we threw fell out of the dartboard. They just didn't stick. But one did initially, and that was merchandise. And what we learned was that when all these live independent artists were making no money, man, if we just had a merchandise and branding platform for them, we probably could have helped them make money. So we were like, let's invest in this. So we acquired the domain, merchbooth.com. And like I said, we had already raised a little over $2 million and we built that out. We've onboarded thousands of artists and we helped them sell their merchandise. But long story longer, you know, I wanted to also say that one of our investors, it was an individual investor who was investing out of a family office, had asked me to sit down when I was in Germany about a year ago. And he said, why don't we pivot from booking live entertainment in an app to helping celebrity entertainers, so traditional celebrities like Damon and some of our investors, help them better understand and as it relates to creating content digitally and monetize that content through merchandise and through brand deals. So that's what we're focused on right now. And you know, it's super exciting to still be working with these guys and on something that could be, you know, a lot bigger than the original special guest app idea was. So my quick lessons here, before you share a story of overcoming a bad deal, is, you know, it kind of gets back to my confidence. You know, there is definitely a point when you do close shop or you shut things down, but note that you could shut down things and still tell a very compelling, very exciting story. Damon and I set off to make a difference, you know, to really try to help people with technology in his industry. And there's no doubt in my mind that we're continuing to do that. And you know, and I'm really fortunate that during those years, even though they were some of the toughest of my life, as they were I know for a lot of us, all of us in business, I'm really proud of the fact that Damon and I had that resilience, you know, to go on. So, but why don't you share one of your stories?
Yeah, and to build on what you said there was, COVID was wild. I mean, I remember coming home in February. My wife was a teacher, and she goes, "Ed, they're gonna shut the schools down." Nah, you just want to get a day off.
Yeah.
Sure enough, a few weeks later, schools are shut down. And I'm like, wait, how does business go through this? And we'll talk more about that later on. But really my story was based around an acquisition we did. It was a tank lines acquisition. It looked great on paper. We knew the business.
What is a tank line, if you don't let me ask?
So it's a business that moves product between bulk storage facilities and end users. So you're piece of the supply chain.
And this is a valuable part of your business.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So looks great on paper. We know the business. We're working around the business every day. We're competing with the business because we have this function in our business already. And so we got the opportunity to acquire this business to scale our one piece of our business. And we're going through the acquisition, getting the due diligence done, got the capital and the finance squared away. It was really painless. It was like a 2-month deal. Appraisals came back okay. Had to kick a little equity in there to get it done. And deal closes in like 2 months. We threw a party for the owner, like, because he was retiring. It was a really like heartfelt acquisition, warm and fuzzy feeling. Well, going through the due diligence, we did interviews with all the employees and talked about how they were the ones, as per the owner, that they ran the business. They did all the routing, they did all the billing, they did all this stuff, that stuff. You had to come to find out about 2 weeks after closing, the owner was going behind the employees when they would make mistakes and fixing them. When the dispatcher would screw routes up, he'd go behind her and fix it. And he was never holding anybody accountable. Super nice guy, but literally was not doing he was doing a disservice to his employees. And really propping them up, saying how good they were. And in the end, he was the business. So we just bought a business, and the business was no longer employed in the business. So it got real weird real quick. We were LBO'd, so it was a leveraged buyout where we took debt on to acquire this business, so we couldn't just walk away. And so we had to really figure it out. And it was dirty. It was fussy, it was uncomfortable, lots and lots of uncomfortable conversations. And as we're working through it, now the person who he propped up to be the manager starts calling some key customers and telling them that we're no longer servicing their account because they want deliveries.
Well, this was an existing employee?
Yep, because they want deliveries on the weekends or at nights. And if you don't fit into this delivery window, we're not going to service you. So now I start seeing orders being canceled. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I dig into it. I start looking through the email chains, and one is best thing we have a leg up nowadays that our predecessors didn't have as technology. You can go in and see who wrote emails, who said this, who said what. Everything's recorded. It's super transparent. So I go in and I start seeing these emails, and she's telling customers we're not going to service anymore. Now we just bought, say, 50, 60 million gallons of service, and in 2 emails she pissed off 30 million gallons of that service, and so around half the business walks away. And I bring her in, I start talking to her. Well, it turns out she had a chip on her shoulder because she thought the prior owner got the business handed to him for free from the founder. And she thought that the prior owner should have handed her the business instead of selling to us. So she was, in a sense, I don't know why she thought she was hurting him. She was hurting us, though.
Yeah.
And it's what they were doing was costing us money, and the person who sold was already off right in the sunset. They got their money at the closing table. We went through with a hatchet. It was a slaughterhouse. Got rid of every employee in there. It was like what I would imagine a surgeon does when he has to go in and deal with cancer or something like that.
Wow.
You just gut it. You get it all out of there. Got it all out of there as quick as we could. We kept one person who was a part-time person, but gutted it, brought in my team, brought in my staff, got them acquainted with it, and we got it wrapped up and fixed in about, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks. And got it back to pre-acquisition gallons in about 3 months. And about 3 months after that, we started growing past that number. Now, the funny part was, a lot like your story, we acquired this business in 2018, August of 2018. So we go through that whole fight in 2019. We're getting back on the saddle, coming back in the winter. And March comes around and we're supplying gas stations. We're taking them fuel, and March comes around and COVID hits and all of our gas stations shut down now. So the durability you have to have in business is second to none. And if you're not durable, don't do it. You're gonna learn how to be durable really quick. And making sure you have a way to survive it.
Yeah.
And the best way to survive stuff's cash. Making sure you have the right amount of cash on the books to do it. You guys had the right amount of investors' cash, whether it be investor cash, your cash, whatever it is, to do it. You have to weather the storm. And when you can weather the storm, the outcomes are usually better than you would expect.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not, but usually they're better than you would expect. And surviving those big moments is key. And because then it's like you live to see another day. Well, that next day could be the win. That next day could be the good day. So if you're not in business to see it, you're never going to get it. So anybody says, "Oh, I closed my business," well, guess what? They're never going to experience any good things in business because they closed it.
Yeah.
So
The cool thing about your story before we wrap up this this particular segment is, dude, you just shared an authentic, true story about how important resilience is during the M&A process.
Yep.
You know, and you could say there's, you need a ton of it during the startup phase. You get to like a Series A and you say you raise money, you don't have to be as your resilience isn't going to be tested as much there. You're going to come down to the fumes remaining if you haven't hit your numbers, and you're going to, go out on the road and try to do a Series B, and your resilience is required. But there's arguably no more resilience necessary than at the startup phase and at the exit phase. So I'm glad that you shared that story. And the thing is, resilience is ultimately what separates the entrepreneurs who make it from those who don't. And my biggest lesson, based on my story and my experience, is that our ability as entrepreneurs to adapt is our biggest asset.
Yep.
yeah, and our ability, there's two abilities of that with entrepreneur. One, your ability to adapt is great, and the ability to problem solve is another one. That could also hurt you, being able to think you can solve every problem. But the one thing that I really hold near and dear that I really learned from a gentleman I work with is trusting the process and letting everything play out.
Joel Embiid?
And
Yeah, he's a little smaller than me. And trust the process. I know it's a Sixers quote, but you get into something, you develop how you're going to fix it, and you execute on those plans until you know those plans aren't working. And then, like you said, you pivot if you need to. And you can either quit or get creative, but I always prefer to get creative and get it done.
Yeah, like I said earlier, resilience is a daily practice. It's not like a one-time event. Those events they're going to be events that really test your resilience. You're not going to need it all the time, but creating self-awareness of that. And speaking of daily habits, up next, we're going to be talking about the routines and strategies that keep top entrepreneurs like Ed and myself in a segment we're calling Life Hacks for Leaders. So don't go anywhere. All right, guys, so resilience is one thing, right? But the way you structure your day, that's what separates good entrepreneurs from great ones. If you don't have a system for managing your time, energy, and focus, you're going to burn out, or you're going to get stuck working on things that don't really move the needle.
Yeah, most business owners will really think about busy work being productive. It's not. You need to be productive. You need to keep grinding. You need to make real progress. There's going to be tons and tons of distractions that want to waste your time, waste your effort, and waste your energy. When you can get through that and design your day to really perform and be driven like a leader.
Ed, you got a minute?
Just kidding.
So for me, this idea of productivity is so central to my lifestyle. I'm very, very serious about it. So I'm going to share with you and with our listeners and viewers a program that I've been using for the last 10 plus years by Tony Robbins called the Rapid Planning Method. And for me and for most people that use it, it's a complete game changer. And it's really how I structure my time and focus, period. And I'll walk you through some of the high levels. Keep in mind that I go to 3 to 5 day immersive events with Tony, and I'm only going to touch the surface of this, but I'm telling you, once you peel back the onion and really see how profound this is and could be in your life, particularly if you don't feel like you're optimizing your time. And by the way, another thing, I'll say it in one of the future episodes, I'm sure, but I stopped the whole ROI analysis when I sold Pepper Jam some 15 years ago. Mine's ROT, return on time, and it's how I think. And so, and I'm going to share some of the reasons why. So the rapid planning method, there's really 3 questions, if you will, or 3 stages that you need to ask yourself as part of the preparation process for where you're going to allocate your time. First thing, game changer. I mean, honestly, this is one of the most profound things I learned from Tony, Ed, and that is that you need to start with your outcome. You have to answer the question, what is it that you really want? Clarity is key. And we're talking about productivity and time management here, so we're really talking about outcomes. What are your goals are another way of thinking about it. The next stage is critical. Why? Why do you want that outcome?
Why do you want
Yeah, why do you want that outcome? You need to understand your purpose. But the way that I like to describe this, and I've been training staff over the years with these strategies, but what I like to say is, like, your why needs to be as visceral as possible. In other words, there's a big difference between saying I want to lose 50 pounds, and I've got to be careful here, I'm sitting with someone who's lost 100 pounds, but I want to lose 50 pounds because I want to look better.
Not because I got divorced.
You're not divorced. You got beautiful family. But I want to lose 50 pounds because I want to look better. I don't know. Some days I look better than other days, so it's not a really good motivating. But I want to lose 50 pounds because my doctor said that if I don't, I could die. I want to lose 50 pounds because I want to be there for my daughter Lauren to walk her down the aisle. I want to lose 50 pounds, so you want to rev up your why. And I like to use the word visceral because we all connect with that word. It goes back to my physiology that I was talking about earlier. So number 1, get clear on your outcome, what you want. Number 2, why do you want it? And really, really turn up that. And the third part really gets into that compelling future. Tony uses the word MAP, which is the acronym for Massive Action Plan. So your third step is, once you know what you want, why you want it, what are the key results that you want to achieve? So one example would be, I'll just use like a common sense, like entrepreneurial one, is like, my outcome is to increase revenue in one line of my business by $50,000 over the next 3 months. The why, and by the way, I could rev this up big time, but I want to scale this business. My big why for all I do is I want to have fucking impact, and
make money.
Dude, honestly, there's nothing apologetic about financial freedom. I grew up poor. I'm working on multi-generational wealth. I want to create opportunities for my kids' to have extraordinary, crazy, ridiculous life experiences like I've had. So then your massive action plan, right? So I'm just saying I want to increase my revenue by $50,000 because I want to have greater impact and I want to have financial freedom. So, but then, what is your massive action plan? What's your MAP, right? Well, I'm going to identify 10 key prospects. I'm going to schedule 3 meetings and I'm going to close 1 deal. The thing I love about goals, and we should do it, we absolutely will do episodes on this because I've studied it so much and I just absolutely love it, is clarity and specificity are everything when we're trying to figure out what it is that we're going after so that we can measure it and we can hold ourselves accountable. The other real quick thing, and I know I'm kind of long-winded here, that I want to talk about with regard to RPM, because I think it's a game changer, is time blocking. right? So remember, we talked about what you want, why you want it, and then to have your massive action plan. Now, how the hell are you going to get there? Well, in most cases, it's not going to happen immediately, so you have to break it up into parts. And so what I do every week, every Sunday without fail, I spend an hour with myself. It's called an hour of power, where I define all of the things that I want to focus my time on over the coming week. I usually do my calendar in week increments. Other people that use this program like to think about it months, quarters. It really doesn't matter. For me, I like to hold myself super accountable on a weekly basis. But so, once I get clear on my outcomes, what it is I'm going after, I block specific time off high value activities that directly support those outcomes. So again, there's a huge level of personal accountability and responsibility in this RPM process. But everything that doesn't fit, you either delegate, you automate, or you eliminate. And one other thing I want to say is, there's a process as part of RPM called capture. And that, I joked with you at the beginning of this saying, hey, do you got a minute? But the answer is you absolutely do not have a minute. Exactly. And you need to have time allocated that people are aware of, where they could come in and leverage your time. And you could give them the greatest value possible, because you're not going to be able to do that if I just say got a minute. And so you have to capture everybody's request for your time and include that in your Sunday hour of power, so that when you're thinking about what is it that you really want, why do you want it, and how are you going to get there? Why do all this? You know why? Because guess what I get to do, and I've been doing it for over a decade. It is absolutely my secret sauce. I get to spend 85% of my time doing the things that are most important to me, the things that I determine. So I have complete control of my time, and I shared this with you, because we're buddies. The interesting thing about this strategy that I use, almost everybody that asks me for anything comes in saying, Kris, I know you're super busy. I've never said to someone like, no, I can't meet up with you because I'm too busy. It's just that they see how focused, how disciplined I am using this RPM strategy. So stop managing tasks, start managing outcomes, and use like a process like RPM, and I know you're going to share some ideas as well, but to filter out distractions so you could focus on that 85%. And one final thing before you share your hack is that I think it's really important for people that are listening to understand that when I'm talking about RPM and productivity, I am either talking about most of my time allocation being focused on personal development. Mm-hmm. And so I, almost every day of the week, allocate an hour to growth. I was going to mention this earlier, but I just finished a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and it's on this topic because I wanted to come in with that idea, but she talks about this difference between a growth mindset and a static mindset, or a fixed mindset, and it's just profound, the benefits personally and professionally to people that can develop that growth mindset. And you kind of defined the growth mindset earlier when we were talking about this idea of failing forward, learning from failures or obstacles, et cetera. So I know that you have a unique approach to productivity, particularly in your mornings, but why don't you share with us that?
Yeah, so my whole productivity, how should I say, cheat code is kind of around mindset. Like we're talking about today, you got to get your head right. If your head's not right, nothing else will be right. If it all starts from the top. And what I typically do is my first thing in the morning is how I get my head right. So wake up, first thing I do, get right to the coffee machine and push the button to start it. That's the first step of my day every day, start the coffee. Right after that, before I can talk myself out of anything, I go down and I start working out. Don't have my phone on me, it's somewhere, it's mud room or it's upstairs, whatever it might be. Get working out.
No phone by design, though.
Yeah, no phone by design. Phones will drive you nuts. I hate them, I can't stand them. I'm probably 3 years away from going back to a flip phone, 2 years, somewhere in that range. Can't stand them. get down there and work out. Work out, whether it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or 50 minutes, however long I feel like I need to really kind of get straight, get my head clear and not have that anxiety-ridden issue that you wake up with when you're in business of, shit, I got to get to every problem right now. Kind of clear it out, because then it helps you metabolize and digest all the problems that are going to come that day. You can plan for them, things like that. And then right after I get done working out, I turn the shower on as cold as I possibly can, and I take about a 5 to 7 minute ice cold shower. And it's phenomenal. It wipes you out, it clears your head, and you come out of there every morning, and you come out of there on fire. I mean, it is the best feeling. You're clear-headed. You can attack any problem. You feel like you can get any job done, which you can with confidence. And then right after that, it's get the kids ready, all that stuff with my wife. She helps obviously with that, does most of it. And then one thing that I work towards is I get to take my daughter to school every morning. So we drive to school, sing in the morning, usually Disney princess songs, shit like that. And it's just great. It's one thing that you put all that time into, that when you first think about it, like, oh wait, I gotta take my daughter to school every morning, and you're like, oh, now I gotta reschedule this. Well, you know what, shut the mornings down. Shut the mornings off, let your head get ahead of you, let your emotions be cleared out, let your head get cleared out, and take advantage of some of the wins you get, because you're not gonna have wins in this business, in business every day. One of those wins I get to do every morning is take my daughter to school. Now I love it. Now I won't go without it. Literally, even if I have to do something early that can't be changed, I'll get up, still do my stuff before it, do what I got to do, drive home, get her, and then go to school. It's a great perk to being a business owner, and that's one of the things that really was a successful piece of working so hard, is getting the flexibility to do those things, blocking your mornings off, keeping everything cleaned out. Because then when I'm at work at 8 o'clock, now I've already been going for 4 hours. I get up around 4 and I'm working by 8. Those 4 hours are not work. God forbid something's on fire, a truck accident, or something's really wrong, then I'll answer the phone. But they usually got to call a couple times. Or I got to see it on the news before I actually call somebody. But those 4 hours are for me, they're for my family, and they're for my time to take my daughter to school. Once that's done, 8 o'clock comes around, I'm off to the races. And I get more done from 8 to probably 2 than most people get done in a couple days, just because I'm set up right.
Yeah. Dude, unbelievable. And you know, it's like when we talk about productivity and sort of almost like life hacking or business hacking, your point on the telephone is profound. You know, and you know, you kind of grew up in the oil and gas business, so you have kind of like an old soul. You know, it's kind of like the history of the business. You say it was 4th generation as well. So when I hear you say that, it's like, it's profound. You know, the times that I forgot where my phone was were some of the best conversations, you know, some of the best meetings. And I shared with you the other day that, you know, I was reading something or I was watching something, and they were talking about the impression you give the other people in the room, or if you're on a video call or whatever, when you pick up your phone during a meeting, you're basically an asshole. And when I heard this, when I heard this, I was just like, I don't want to be an asshole. You know, I'm actually a really big believer in, like, you know, presence and like being there and adding value, like Gary Vee. You know, it's like when he first started saying, I was like, yes, that is it. That is the secret. So, all right, so let's recap. So my productivity hacks were around the rapid planning method, time blocking, focusing on the things that matter most, owning your time, return on time. And it gives you this incredible luxury to do stuff like you're doing, and I do as well, which is take the kids to school, you know, not miss events. Like, you own it. I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but one of the things I take pride in, and I would normally never say this publicly, but they know, I often don't take calls when I get them from super influential people like US senators or Congress people or whatever, if I'm in a conversation with someone. If I'm sitting there with my wife, I'll just be like, holy cow, Senator so-and-so, and I'll be like, no. So own it. That's how strongly I believe in that message. And for you, I guess it's what, the no morning meetings, right?
No morning meetings is a big thing. It's you don't want to dive into something too quick because then your whole day is that hectic. You want to get up, you want to move slow, you want to get your head clear, get some physical exercise in you. If you want to get outside and get some sunlight on you, if you're in a place where it's bright at 4 a.m., get some sunlight on you. I haven't bought red light therapy yet, like everybody's bought yet, but I might one day. Really get stuff moving.
Yeah.
Spend time with people in the morning, whether it's your wife, your kids, your father, whoever it might be that you're around. That helps, and that makes your day so much easier. And keeping that clear mindset for that first 4 hours kind of makes you more durable through the day.
Yeah.
And it really, taking the dedicated time to myself, because I usually do all my stuff in the morning. I'm not a late night guy. You call me at 9 o'clock, I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But dedicating those mornings to yourself, and it works when you have young kids because they're still sleeping, so you got all the time in the world. That's really how
It's profound. Some of the most successful people I've ever had the opportunity to have conversations with around mindset, and honestly, they share stories like you were about owning that morning routine. But so the way you structure your day, it dictates your success. But beyond daily habits, the right mindset is definitely what separates good leaders from great ones. In our next episode, we're sitting down with Professor Matthew Sowchick, an expert in leadership and the author of the best-selling book, The H Factor, H standing for humility. He's going to talk to us about the power of humility in entrepreneurship, why it's often overlooked, and how it could actually be a game changer for you during your entrepreneurial journey. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.